probably wondering, why is Cynthia wearing that crown? Maybe you're thinking, I suspected she was a little vain or stuck up and she likes to be called doctor, but I didn't think she'd show up wearing a crown. Well, good. I'm glad I got your attention, because I want to talk now about another obstacle that I have found keeps Christians from reaching out, not just to Muslims, but to anybody. So it's what I call the hero holdout. And I don't know that anybody has mentioned this to you before. I don't think it's commonly well known, but I wish it would be. What happens is, in our ministry, when we speak in churches or we talk to people, we tell them the exciting things that are happening. We share the things we have done. We might talk about when we've gone to an Islamic institute, or the time I went into a mosque and I started singing praises to the Lord in front of the imam, or we've gone into certain dangerous places overseas. And we're trying to inspire them, but what we do is we often end up causing hero worship. And friends, if you start sharing your stories of what happens with Muslims, be careful, because you don't want to get into that. What happens is people end up, instead of being inspired, they can switch around to say, oh, well, that's you, you're special. You have this special calling, a special ability, special anointing, but not me, I'm not special. And friends, what does the Bible tell us about that? Well, do you remember in 1 Samuel 16, we hear about how David was called? Was David the tall, handsome, muscular one? No, that was King Saul, the first king of Israel. David was the kind of puny little guy in the family who was out tending sheep. Some people even say he might have been illegitimate. He wasn't looked on favorably. But we know when Samuel was called to anoint a new king, the Lord told him to go to the house of Jesse, and he told him to choose David. And that you can read in 1 Samuel 16. What happens in 1 Samuel 17? That's where you get the story about David and Goliath. David taking the stone, putting it in a sling, slinging it around, and boom, hitting the giant in the forehead. Of course, he falls over and dies, and David finishes him off with the sword. But we tend to look at that and think, oh yeah, David, he was an amazing Bible character. He was called of God, and he could do these great things. Okay, maybe he was a kid then. But you see the trap that we fall into. It's a similar trap. And in the New Testament, we have Paul. He was saying, why was he chosen? Because he says he was the worst of sinners. He was scoffing at Christ and persecuting believers. And yet, how often today do we say, oh, that was Paul, I could never do that. So friends, I am encouraging you not to do that. Not to be like this one police officer who once said to me, I've been on the police force 25 years and I don't have the guts to do what you do. You know, if we're not careful, that can make us feel proud. But it shouldn't. The same thing that will happen is many times I will say to people, please pray, because I'm going to be sharing with these people, these Muslims. I'm going to be going on this outreach. Please pray. And a lot of times they don't get their mind on the people. It's immediately on me. They say, I will be praying for your safety. And for myself and people like me that are doing the outreach, we feel like, no, pray for the door to open. Pray for those people to hear the gospel, that we say it well, that they understand it, that they believe it. So you see the difference. So I just want to encourage everybody who's looking at what we do, whether it's me or the people on our team or the people you see in the other videos on our YouTube and website. Try not to think that's them. Try to think, wow, what could God do with me? I tell you the truth, friends, it's not necessarily natural for me just to be going up to people like I do every day, Muslim or not, and giving them a tract or a coffee card with a coffee card or chocolate and trying to show them to taste and see that the Lord is good. Now, I've told you in some of our background videos, I'm a medical doctor. I've had a successful practice. I've taught in medical school, nursing school, and pharmacy school. I always tried to be the best example of whatever. And I never thought necessarily I would be on the streets sharing what I do with people that I am. And yet when I prayed to God to give me his gifts, he gave me the gift of evangelism. So I'm saying if a snobby doctor could do that, you could do it too. You can do it. Whatever your obstacles, whatever your personality issues, we all have personality issues. Give it to God and pray and say, Lord, I may not be much. I'm smaller than David. I'm insignificant. Or as I have prayed, Lord, I just have this handful of mud to offer you, but I know if I give it to you, you can make it into a diamond. So friends, I pray that for you. Don't fall into the trap of hero worship. Don't hide behind saying, oh, you guys can do that, I can't. No, you can do wonderful things if you give yourself to the Lord.